Spoiler warning! Before we go any further, complete and total spoilers lie ahead for Life is Strange, a game whose story I can strongly recommend is worth experiencing to anyone who cares about such things. But with that out of the way, welcome once again to the third episode of Transgamer, the series in which I, Jazz, ramble aimlessly about the contribution games have had and continue to have to my gender transition. That's male to female, in case it wasn't obvious from my terrible attempt at a girly voice. Life is Strange has some similarities to Gone Home in my mind, but the difference is Gone Home was quote-unquote pre-awakening, but Life is Strange was quote-unquote post-awakening, and Life is Strange really kind of hit me. It was almost perfectly arranged and timed to hit me right in the feels, because as I'm sure you know if you're watching a spoiler video, it's all about college girl, potential romance, and just having a whole wide world out open in front of you, and it all being very scary. I think, just because it's a spoiler, let's go straight to the juicy ending. I think a lot of people seem to have been offended by the ending, which I find quite funny, because when you go to the Steam reviews, literally almost every negative review is like, the ending, why to waste my time with this? And almost none of the bad reviews I saw there seem to have considered that the journey can be as important as the destination, as the cliche goes. It's weird to me. They're saying, it all ended up the same, what's the difference, what's the point, that was a waste of time. But I'm like, no. The journey, Max as a character has gone through so much shit, and even if no one else can ever know, it's a thing. It's happened. You know, she's not the same person in any way, shape or form as when she began. And not to be overly dramatic, but that's almost how I felt at the end of Life is Strange. I was like, oh god, I was in this bathroom like years ago. So much has happened. Because Max herself isn't a particularly memorable character, because she's kind of stuck in that weird, the eternal gaming problem of a protagonist, where it's like you're basically a player avatar if you're a game protagonist, but also you have to have some sort of character in order to be in any way, shape or form a memorable character. And this is a line that I think Saints Row has always walked better than most, but Max suffers a bit. But I think the real standout character to me in Life is Strange is Chloe, and the relationship she has with Max. And just Chloe to me is almost like a weird, inspiring example of quote-unquote the femininity that I'm aiming for in my transition, because it's like she is unquestionably female, she has all these girly things, but also she's confident and in your face. And I find so many Hollywood stories and stuff when they're like, oh, we have a female character, we need to be like so girly and in your face. I'm like, no, you can just be someone like Chloe who's like, hey bitch, what are you doing? I am hella definitely Chloe. You know, she's confident, she's in your face, but equally she's female. It's part of her character, the femininity, but it's not, for some reason I just can't say that word, femininity. It's part of her character, but it's not her defining trait. It's not the entirety of her character. That always bothers me. It's like in Hollywood, the unnecessary romance scene with just two stock characters who for some reason they have to have a romance now, no matter how completely illogical in the context it is. So there's something about Life is Strange, the whole structure of it. It's that very Telltale Games format of kind of the modern update to the point-and-click adventure style of game. But I honestly think it did a better job with that than something like The Walking Dead. I've only played The Walking Dead Season 1, but I did really like that as well. Not having it be a frickin' zombie game is immediately an advantage in my mind as well. A lot of people have said that Telltale's games, they're light on puzzles and they've been getting very samey these last few years. Kind of coasting on the success of Walking Dead, probably. Life is Strange takes that same model of game, but I think it does a much better job with... Like, genuinely, Life is Strange might have some of the best writing I've seen in a game in a long, long time. It has, like, Metal Gear Solid levels of characterization, but the difference is it isn't 70 hours long. It doesn't need 80 hours of cutscenes and people basically just spelling out their entire characters. There are so many subtle moments, and even though it's that Telltale style of game, where it's like, hey, we've got fairly minimal interaction, most of what you do is wandering around and talking to people, there are definite gameplay moments, like, holy freaking crap. We've already done the spoiler warning, so I feel no guilt in going on about this. The end of episode 2, I think, with Kate on the roof, I was like, oh, jeez, oh god! You know, I didn't even, like, she wasn't a particularly deep character or anything, but I just felt for her, and I was like, oh god! I was suspicious they were going to go some sort of suicide attempt route, but what I didn't expect was to actually be there on the roof, having to talk her down. And the real genius is that's the one moment your superpowers fail. The entire game up until that point is training you to be like, here's your superpowers. You can abuse them however you like. And then right at that moment it's like, Jinx, whatever, psych, they're gone now. You have to make do by yourself. And I was like, oh god! And this is a particularly rambly video, but I think where I was trying to go with that is... Life is Strange really just grabbed me. I felt so in Max's shoes, being the awkward, shy girl trying to find her way in the world. And, you know, on a very personal note, I've even had a similar kind of estranged friend situation in the past, a few years ago now, but I've had that similar situation of what a friend has left and come back, and now it's like so much has happened, and what do we do? I think it might have even literally been 5 years in my case as well. But then even more relevantly to my transition in the future, it's like I'm having these situations now in my social life where pretty much everyone knows about me and what I'm going through, but it's awkward, especially because so many of my good friends are dudes. Even when people are completely supportive, there is that awkwardness, just because, of course there is, it's a big thing they're going through, you know, they thought they were friends with a dude and turns out they're not, you know, it's a thing they're not used to. And the dynamics there, I've really felt, this is the sort of game where I had an extremely personal experience with it, because not many people are going to have the exact same context to experience Life is Strange that I did. But it really just... This is why I kind of put an asterisk on all of my praise of Life is Strange, because I can say the writing is really good, I can say the characters are really well done, and all of that stuff, but I do put that asterisk because I say you might not be as emotionally destroyed by this game, because you may not be a fledgling trans woman coming to terms with life in the real world and all these complicated emotional things. This is truly an astonishingly rambly session, but what the hell, I don't care, it's mine, my video, I can do what I like. My logic is, I actually did a Life is Strange review on my blog, where I kept it spoiler free and quite to the point, so I said, hey, this is my opportunity to do a spoiler-filled, completely rambly discussion. I don't care if it goes on for half an hour, and I make no sense at all. This is my damn video. Read the review if you want cohesion. Chloe was such a character to me, and some, you know, there were some plot points in Life is Strange I went, I kind of expected that. But then there are other plot points, like, I actually thought... I expected there'd be some sort of choice at the end, but I thought the main, like, quote-unquote proper ending would be for Max to sacrifice herself. I thought that's where the plot was going. For some reason, I didn't see it coming. I always say a good twist in a plot is... A plot twist... a good plot twist is one that comes out of nowhere when you first experience it, but then when you look back you go, oh, I see, because X plus Y equals Z, and oh, it makes sense now. That is a good plot twist, because it's easy to just pull something out of nowhere to surprise people, but then it's like, how could you possibly... That's just random, there's no logic there, there's no drama, because it just came the fuck out of nowhere. It's like Deus Ex Machina, you know? But I suppose the other extreme is the very predictable plot twist that makes a lot of sense, but is in no way interesting because it's completely predictable. Chloe and the whole relationship, she felt like... I really felt Max's awkwardness around her and all of that at the beginning, and then you start going on these adventures, but there's still this tension, and then by the end, gonna be honest, I kissed Chloe. I don't know if you've seen, there's an amazing video, just type Shia LaBeouf Life is Strange and you'll find it. And it's someone intermixing the kiss Chloe choice with Shia LaBeouf's famous "Do It" video. So he just, it's like, do you kiss Chloe? And Shia LaBeouf just comes on and goes, do it! Do it! Make your dreams come true! I just would never stop finding that funny. So again, I kind of, similarly to Saints Row, I kind of used Life is Strange as almost like a vent for my girly frustrations, and just because it fits so well for that. It was like lost in this place filled with people who just trying to unravel the mystery at the heart of Life is Strange, and just meeting so many convoluted problems as a result. I like that the choices in Life is Strange, there are some which are just like, you know, kick the dog into the road, or, you know, don't be a dick. There's some that are fairly unambiguous. But then there are others which is like, oh god, everyone loses no matter what I pick. And it's just... I really appreciate that. Even in otherwise great games like Fallout 3, they're like... oh, you can either do a good thing or a obviously evil thing, and we're going to mark it as such, and everyone will judge you differently. I think Chloe was just such a believable character, and key to that is it's the showing. Half of what makes a good story is in the showing. It's like Mad Max Fury Road. There's nothing particularly complicated or unusual about the plot or the story or the plot in Fury Road, but the presentation and how minimalist a lot of the dialogue is, and how believably just there's so much visual contextualization, so much world building done in the background, so many, literally hundreds of little touches that you could completely miss, and the dialogue is like someone will say something, and the way they've said it, their use of language is just so... it feels very deliberate. And I got that with Life is Strange. Life is Strange, it's just because most game stories, to this day, tend to be shit. Even supposedly hyped up ones, with Hollywood actors and all this stuff, the AAA games have a bad habit of having a lot of dialogue, but it doesn't really add anything. Like, I have this problem with the Uncharted games. I've played Uncharted 1 to 3, they all have basically the same story, and there's a lot of talking, but it doesn't feel like it's contributing anything. The characters are still quite flat, the story never really takes any unexpected turns, especially if you've seen even one Indiana Jones film. I would rather have, you know, that's not good writing. Having a whole bunch of dialogue, in the case of a film or cutscene, having a whole bunch of dialogue that doesn't really say anything is bad writing, you know? Whereas Life is Strange, there's a lot of talking, but there's it's not. I'm not making an excellent point here, but it's good. It doesn't say, it shows instead of tells. There's no magic bullet to good writing, but the one tip I will always say to people is show, don't tell. Don't say this character is an alcoholic. Say this was his second drink this evening, or something like that. Something as simple as that. Which was actually, now that I think about it. Anyway, whatever. My point is, Life is Strange. It's really good. It just gripped me so hard. Obviously, there's a lot of projection is why I liked it so much. But I seriously think Chloe was just such a fucking character, and there were 3 or 4 moments in the game where I'm like, oh shit, no, what? I don't know what to do. Oh god, this is bad. But equally, there was great emotional variety. After every really dark moment, there would always be a, okay, we need to cheer you up for a bit now. Something as simple as, possibly one of my favourite scenes in the whole game is when you're trying to prove to Chloe that you have superpowers. It took me half an hour to do this stupid puzzle just because I have a terrible memory. But I love how it played with the time. It's very rare to do something with time travel that hasn't been done to some extent, but I had never quite seen that scene before, where you just have to, by trial and error, you just have to guess what's in someone's pockets. I'd never really seen that before. That was just a funny scene. It's funny, it's lighthearted, you believe Max and Chloe's relationship is just so believable, and it's more believable for the tension, that there is the tension there, and you see how they play off each other. Sure, some of the choices are a bit shallow and ultimately don't affect anything. That is definitely one of the more valid criticisms you could make, but equally, like with The Walking Dead and Gone Home, I would argue, if Life is Strange was just a movie or a book or some other non-interactive medium, it would not be the same. I would not have the same experience of wandering around someone's place and being like, oh, look at this, and oh, that's nice, and just almost setting your own pace. One of the most beautiful things in the game, actually, for me was, I mentioned the whole thing with Kate. What got me most about that moment, possibly, was the last question where it's like, who would miss me if I died? I answered that question only because I managed to save Kate only because, like 2 hours earlier, I'd been wandering around her room trying to look at her room and find things that would give me an idea of who she was and what she was going through. And I remembered vividly picking up that photo, and Max is like, oh, her sisters love her so much. And it's only because of that. And the game does not say, be sure to pick up the picture. And it doesn't even say, congratulations, you picked up the picture, so now you know what to say to Kate. It was just an organic moment. It was like, I had a friend who played the game and they hadn't seen the evidence and they didn't manage to save Kate. And I'm like, oh god, that would have been so traumatic. You know, I just think Life is Strange, it's genuinely one of the best, like, most involving game stories I've seen in a good few years. I think, off the top of my head, the last story I'd say that affected me, not affected, there's Gone Home, and then there's Mass Effect, but my problem with Mass Effect is that it's not it's kind of the story you make yourself in Mass Effect is what's interesting. It's the little side stuff that's good, and then the main plots are just the one big ball of sci-fi cliches, and even the one main villain that I liked actually has spoiler. So let's not spoil Mass Effect while we're here. I've been going on for 20 odd minutes now. Made about as much sense as possible. I could literally look at my Life is Strange review for further inspiration. Nope. Yeah, I mean, it's such an involving story with such great characters. I felt like Chloe was a character by the end. I felt like we'd gone on this great journey together, and I do feel like of the two endings, only one of them feels dramatically appropriate. It's only the Sacrifice Chloe ending that kind of feels like the logical, dramatic conclusion to what's come before. But equally, if you didn't have the option to not sacrifice Chloe, that would take away, I think, from the dramatic Sacrifice Chloe ending. And also, I'm so happy. My other problem with The Walking Dead is, and a lot of Telltale's games, is the fact that it's seasonal, like a TV show. One of my biggest problems with TV shows is that they can easily be padded out and stretched on for ages and ages so long as they're popular. Whereas Life is Strange had a beginning, middle, and end, and it felt exactly... There were no dull, like, half-assed... Some of the episodes in The Walking Dead felt like a bit fluff compared to other ones. I felt everything in Life is Strange was pretty much exactly how I would have done it. And even the bits that weren't as good, it was more like just a limitation of the engine and the mechanics that they had, as opposed to something that was wrong within the context and mechanics that they had. You could say, oh, I wish it was more interactive like Amnesia or something, and you could say, oh, I wish the choices made more impact, but for what there was, I thought it was a hell of a good story. Incredibly good, believable characters. Even the side characters, I felt so invested in the setting. I will confess I've gone on for about 10 minutes now. I haven't managed to actually drag this into my transition, but I talked about transition stuff earlier. I think, yeah, I'll say this. Life is Strange would not have affected me as deeply without my girly frustrations, and I almost didn't buy it. I was like, oh, I'm not sure it's necessarily going to be my thing, and Telltale type games, sometimes I get a bit bored of them, but no, I completely, utterly am happy with my purchase. And if you're okay, why would you be watching this if you haven't already played the game? You've just ruined it completely for yourself. But if you know someone else who isn't sure whether they want to play it or not, obviously it's not a game for everyone. It's not like, oh yeah, I love Call of Duty, therefore I'll love Life is Strange. You know, they're completely different games. Not necessarily better or worse, just different. But if you know someone whose interests seem relevant to Life is Strange and they're like, I'm not sure I'm going to like it, say to them, you can always get the first episode, and if you're not freaking hooked, like Jazz was, then you can always stop. But Jazz was freaking hooked, and Jazz was... So many games go on too long, so many games just kind of fizzle out and feel like the ending is half-assed. Even otherwise great games have some fairly terrible endings. Cough, Mass Effect, cough. Life is Strange didn't feel like that. I thought like the ending was the best, pretty much possible ending it could have had. It made complete dramatic sense to me. It's apparently a controversial statement. Sure, it could have been quote-unquote better, but everything could be better. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was good. I was like... It was so like, oh god, no! If anything, I thought the alternate ending, this quote-unquote bad ending, could have been better, but the, like, quote-unquote main ending was pretty great. It's like, you know... It felt like one last swan song for your childhood, Max. You get to enjoy Chloe one more time, and then she's gone, and you have to live with that, and... Okay, I'm gonna take this all back to gender stuff. It's like, you know, your childhood was long and strange and confusing, but here's one last bash, Jazz. Here's one last enjoy your childhood and stuff. And now it's gone. But it's not really gone. You can learn from Max, just like she learned from Chloe. You can learn emotionally from what's happened here. And you can say, no, I'm not going to wallow in the past. I can move on. I would rather try to make the best of things now and keep my friends that I have who've been so supportive, rather than give up and just assume the worst is the worst, and in extreme scenario just wallow in depression forever until my life expectancy suddenly gets drastically reduced. Wink wink, nudge nudge. That was a dark joke. It's okay, it's about myself. I can make dark, dumb jokes. For like I feel like 3 times in this video I've said, so that's Life is Strange, like, trying to reach a conclusion, but I think that's a good ending. That's a good ending. No, actually, speaking of endings, once again, I've forgotten to have a fucking ending, so I need to plan these things ahead better. So I'll just say, thank you for watching, thank you for putting up with my terribly fluctuating voice. I am currently working on my voice. If you like this shit, I do other shit, primarily Let's Plays. And there's my blog and all that shit. I'm just plugging stuff now. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Tell everyone you know to buy Life is Strange. Toodaloo. P.S. The soundtrack to Life is Strange is one of the best, just like licensed soundtracks ever, and in terms of how it's used in the game as well. Holy shit, so many feels. That fucking moment after the whole wheelchair sequence where Max goes back and she sees Chloe at the chair at her computer and she just like fucking jumps on her and hugs her from behind. I was like, yes, yes, yes. I was just, oh. Iconic moments. In case you hadn't guessed, I quite like the game.
Max, it's time. Chloe, I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this. I know, Max, but we have to. We have to save everybody. Okay? And you'll make those fuckers pay for what they did to Rachel. Being together this week, it was the best farewell gift I could have hoped for. You're my hero, Max. I'll always love you. Now get out of here, please. Do it before I freak. And Max Caulfield, don't you forget about me.